first meeting of the Marion County Board of Education to order, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Let's be seated. Now, you all, this is going to be very informal. We're just going to discuss the weekend's KSBA conference that we all attended, and I'm going to just open the floor for comments and discussion. So feel free to, if anybody wants to start, let me know what you thought about the opening, closing, things that took place in the middle, your work sessions, and so forth.
Did everybody get an agenda?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you know, of course, the boards are going to be required for training now, just like anyone else. And most of the classes I went to, though, I felt pretty good. I felt like we were well on our way to where we need to be getting, and which a lot of times surprises me. And as Michael said, well, no, but I mean, you know, it does surprise you sometimes when you get out and you see that, you know, we're already headed in that direction. And so that means we're doing a pretty good job looking at what's happening and where we need to be going. And of course on the ethics thing, I think even the little audits that we had extra done, I think we're seeing that even under some of the board issues, we're finding that sometimes they don't always get signed off as how they, and I think that was the big thing that we heard down there. It wasn't so much, and there are cases where there's some money, and a couple of districts, really a whole lot of money. But in most districts, it's a matter of getting the right signatures by the right people and those kind of things. It's not, they found that most districts, it's not how much money's gone, those kind of things. And then the superintendent evaluation, I'm like Michael, I thought we was going into a session to see what the new
Standards
was going to be and what it was going to look like. But instead, I think ours looks better than what I heard in there, or it's the same thing.
Well, we've been doing this for several years. I mean, we've been using this particular form for several years, and we've gotten used to it. So I think we as a board, we're where we're supposed to be as far as evaluating the superintendent. What they told us in there was just a rehashing of what we're already doing and what the standards say. I was disappointed because I thought we were going in there to see what the new standards were and how we were going to evaluate the superintendent in open session this coming July. Well, I'm glad to know that I mean, it's nice to know I wasn't the only one who thought that. There was other people that was in the workshop who thought that's what we were going in there for. We get in there and it's just the same thing. So we brought it to the person doing the workshop, the facilitator, and they apologized. We're sorry that, you know, that's what you all thought, but this is what it is. You know, it is what it is. So, I mean, we didn't get up and leave or anything. Everybody stayed there and listened to it. But I was under the impression, and where did I get it? I thought I read it from the commissioner. He sends I get an email every single Monday from him, and I thought that's where I read it. I almost feel sure that's where I read it, that this was going to take effect this year, come July of this year, okay? And the superintendent would be evaluated in open session, okay? As it is now, we evaluate superintendent in closed session, and then when we get into open session, give the results of that in open session, okay? But we've been doing that for the summative evaluation. We've been doing that for years. So that hasn't changed. So I was thinking it was changing this year. Now, even in the workshop though, the facilitators were telling us that next year there would be pilot programs out there for schools to use, and then they would look at that and see how that was doing before they gave us the standards. Well, 2 or 3 people in the meeting says we're already doing the pilot program this year. So they were unaware that there's districts doing the pilot program now. So, you know, I guess when you're as large an organization as the, you know, Kentucky Department of Education, that you have people who, you know, don't know what's going on either. So, which was okay. We learned that we don't have to worry about it this year, which is fine. We've got enough on our plate. So, but that's, I'm not even sure that it's going to be 13. No, it's 14 and 15. It could be 15. It could be 2016 before we actually use the new standards and do the evaluation that way. So that's where we are.
Is that the new effectiveness standards, Ms. Lusher?
And I'd like to add a little bit to what he said, not much, but a little bit. I'm brand new, 3 months or 4 months now, but that was my first training session like this for the state. But they even called it the dreaded superintendent evaluation. So here I am doing it, I'm thinking, this is what they're calling their session. Superintendent effectiveness, the dreaded superintendent evaluation. So that's kind of how it went. And then another session that I was in was the 21st Century School Board member. Now, there were so many statistics in that they got their information off of YouTube, and it was called "Did You Know?" And you ought to go look at "Did you know?" And if you put that in YouTube, it will come up, and it's going to have our world from 1950 to 2013, and you'll be shocked at what you're going to find out.
All the changes.
All the changes. It's unbelievable. Of course, and then, you know, they're talking about, well, now what's going to be like in 25 more years, or 50 more years. So that was really good. And another thing that I thought was pretty interesting was in that session is how can we do things differently from what we're doing now, because there's been so many changes. And I know there was a group, there was a group, and I don't remember where they were out of, but each group had 4 things to go over, and one was, what would you do differently, or what are you doing differently? And I know this group, instead of having 2 meetings a month for business meeting, they had a business meeting, and then they had what they called a board retreat. They had that once a month, and that was to talk about, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle the future? So that was pretty interesting to me. And then a couple of other ones were the financing, which that's not my cup of tea, but a lot about the financing in the Red Book, which was interesting. I have read most of the Red Book, but I'd have to read it probably more than one time to understand it. So that was kind of my take.
Is it really red?
It's not. I read it on the internet, so I don't know.
So it's not.
It's
not necessarily red.
It's on my iPad.
Mike?
Well, since you stole all my thunder away,
I hope not.
That's why I wonder.
This meeting ain't gonna last long if I've already said it all.
no, I really enjoyed going to these things, especially the one in February. It's a state meeting. It's the largest one the state has, and there's about 1,000 board members there from all over the state of Kentucky. And it really is an interesting event to meet and see people and talk to them and sit next to them working, sit in these workshops, and they're raising their hands up. And I am so pleased to be part of this Board of Education here. There seems to be in some districts where the board members have fear of the fact that they're a board member. For example, I said in one workshop, I don't remember which one it was, I think it had to do with, board members taking a look at each other, it's self-evaluation, I believe that's the one it was, and one old boy raised his hand, and he said, said, we really get along great as a board member. Said, we have cookouts together, do things together. He said, but we're still ranked only 140th in the state. He said, maybe it's 160th out of 173. So I'm thinking the good old, some of these guys are, really like one another, they're not moving their district ahead and they're not progressing. In the same workshop, probably 50, 60, 100 people in there, and some was asking, does anybody here have your local TV stations in your board meetings? And some of us raised their hands, and most of them didn't really. You didn't have no way. And one guy, I couldn't believe it, said, I don't know if we could function or not if we had our local TV station yet. And somebody said, well, why? We said, well, we'd be afraid nobody would speak up and speak out. To explain, why they're for this or why they're for this. And I don't think we could actually function if we had to do that. So it blew me away to hear those kinds of comments, and the fact that the same meeting, same workshop we were in. And they always have fabulous, especially the one at the very end, a speaker comes in and speaks to the whole group. And this guy, he came in, his name is Sergeant Matt Eversman. Sergeant Matt Eversman. He was part of the crew. I think everybody here can remember Black Hawk Down that took place about 20-some years ago in Mogadishu. And he was part of that. And there's a riveting story about leadership. You train, and you train, and you train, and you train for different contingencies, things will happen. And you train if your leader of suddenly is no longer there, and you're the second in command. You're never thinking that you could be that person in command. And sure enough, it happened to him when the night before he was getting ready to go out to go to Mogadishu, go to his helicopters. And our commander got called by the Red Cross to go home, I guess for a family emergency. So all of a sudden he was thrust in a leadership role. And when he flew in, and these military guys were coming out of the helicopter down on ropes, and things just didn't go the way they're supposed to. All of a sudden he was trying to make decisions, and you train and you train and you train to make decisions on the spot. And and I think it goes back to what our superintendent's been talking about, is you train, you develop, and hopefully, people, enough of those things will fall on ears that one someday take up the baton of leadership. And that's what it comes down to. The other thing is that we've talked about this, how to maybe, and this is our chairman, Mr. Mullen's idea, and I agree with him that how we might organize our board meetings. I think our effort here, I think we all kind of agree that if we can find a way to make our board members more effective, I think we're all agreeing. I'm not saying we're not effective, but we get to move to another notch level higher. And it's making our board meetings more effective is to consolidate best as we can all business in one meeting, and have the second board meeting is kind of a workshop, similar to what we're having here today. And to cover, maybe have discussions about issues where no business is going to take place, and try to move it forward. But I'll stop there, and then let someone else go for a while, and then I'll come back for another turn.
Well, I just want to add a little bit to what you were saying,
Okay.
and I think we've talked about that already, and that is today, kids, if they do not get a high school education or some training or career college ready or post-secondary, there's nothing out there for them. I mean, used to they could enter the military, but even to this day and time, you have to pass a pretty good test even to get into the military. And, to hear him talk, you have to become critical thinkers, and you have to, forget all the surroundings that's around you. You have to think quickly and do. And, and I think, you know, that's part of education and what we're trying to tell kids. You know, do the best you can and get an education the best that you can. You know, and please don't drop out above all things. You know, there's just nothing out there if you do.
The lady that spoke Saturday before the luncheon session, somebody recall her name?
I got it right here, it's from New York.
Yeah.
New York, here's right here, Dr. Diane Rikovich.
Yeah. She was
She was the Assistant U.S. Secretary of Education.
Yes.
okay. She was she spoke very softly, very direct, slow enough you could understand what she was saying, and she just filled us full of information. And there's no way you can take all that in, but she was giving us statistics about different things that go on in the United States as far as education is concerned. And y'all remember, I remember just 2 years ago, we were talking about charter schools and how charter schools might be the answer and that sort of thing. And she gave us 100 reasons why we would not ever want to have a charter school. And I mean, I was really surprised. I had no idea. They're, according to her, the information she gave us, they're not working. They're failing, and they've had what, 20 years, you know, in existence. So they're finding out they're not working, and according to her, what they're doing is they're taking your best students out of certain schools, and then when those students, if those students don't make it, they get rid of the students they don't want. They get rid of the students who don't make the school, you know, look like it's an elite place, you know, for your children to go. So different things like that. But she was very interesting. It's a whole lot. It's a lot of information for somebody just to give you. You know, I would like to have all the information that she gave us, you know, and have it in a piece of paper where I could read it. I'm sure if we contacted her, we could get that information. This video on YouTube that Butch is talking about, I looked at it again Monday, and I mean, I'll keep referring to it. It's very, very interesting. And I'm sure there's more like it. I haven't looked for anything else. But the thing about the workshops is they always have 3 speakers. They have one at the beginning and one at the end. And Bernard told me a long time ago, he said, on Sunday mornings, that's the best speaker. Usually, that's the best speaker. And all the years I've been going, he's been right. I mean, your best speaker is on Sunday morning, and there's just a handful of people left. I don't know why. A lot of people leave on Saturday. They don't wait for Sunday to get there. But usually, that's your best speaker. And this guy that Mike was talking about, you know, he related all of his experiences to how we operate a school system, and it makes perfect sense. When you leave, or when I leave, you know, when I leave there on Sunday, I'm ready to come back on Monday and get started doing all the things that I think we need to do as a school district, you know, or start remembering all those things, and let's implement this and this, and let's look into this, and that's what they're for. That's what the workshops are for, is to teach the board members. We're required to have so many hours of instruction every single year. So this is the only way one way to get it. We could actually have KSBA come here and do workshops for us, but I have my reservations about that. They want an arm and a leg, you know, for doing that, and I just, you know, and I'm saying this, and this is going to be on TV, but after the, what is it, the fee that we pay each year, our dues each year, I mean, my gosh, I think they do something free every now and then. They don't.
There was something I think going to be in that superintendent evaluation.
Could be.
One of them, they said they would come. And
I think that, I remember that,
yeah.
That's right.
But the only thing I was going to ask, you was talking about the lady from New York University. The only thing about her now, so I'll tell all y'all, you know that she needs to learn how to do a dance or something. She just She bores me because she just sits there and she just reads, you know. I mean, you know, after a while, I can fall asleep if somebody's just reading to me, you know. So she needs to do something, just jump up and down every now and then.
One tone.
Back off the phone,
Yeah,
I mean, a microphone or something, you know. Because otherwise, she just almost puts you to sleep. But she had lots of good information, and I think we'd collected a lot more of it if.
But she reminded me of my grandma. That's why I liked her so much.
Well, that's
And
true.
she may be just a few years older than me. I don't know how old she is. But she reminded me of my grandmother.
I was excited that this is leading right into our strategic planning meeting next Tuesday. Because, you know, what I hear you all saying is that you're excited, you're ready to come back, you're ready to get things accomplished. And we're going to have Debbie Powers here next Tuesday to begin that process. And, you know, I attended a facilities planning meeting, Mr. Spalding and I, because we're going to be doing that next year. Obviously, we hope that our strategic plan will also go along with that. Also talking about a session on technology, you know, what does technology look like for children and all of the grants that are out there through the federal government, from very small grants to very large grants, from infrastructures to putting technology in kids' hands, what would that look like? Also sat in on a session from a district who had had some financial troubles. And, you know, the checks and balances, and what it said was, if you're a first-year superintendent, it's not just about being an instructional leader, but you've also got to be aware of many other things, and one of those is finance. And I felt like that was a good session to go to, because obviously we want to be legal and ethical, keep our money intact, and obviously lead instruction. So I wanted to make sure that I hit that. And then with the superintendent's evaluation, I'm not nervous about that because I'm doing that through the new superintendent's program. I'm actually going through the effectiveness system, so I'm being evaluated twice this year. You all will do your normal evaluation, and then in the spring, I will present to you all a capstone project, which will go along with that. Now, all the pieces of paper and all the forms haven't been developed through, like you said, KDE, and what does that look like, and there'll be a lot of other training. But I'm going to be accustomed to those 8 standards and 80 indicators. It'll be different. So you all will get to see, you know, that capstone project in the spring. But I'm excited that we've come back. We're excited. We're going to get to work. We're going to start having a plan, develop a timeline on what that's going to look like.
When you talk about technology, you know, you hear that everybody talks about technology. In every workshop, regardless of what the workshop was about, technology always came up. All of our speakers, technology, you know, that was a focus in their talks. And you know, when I'm sitting out there with, you know, a bunch of people, and we're just, you know, drinking coffee and chewing the fat and talking about the school systems and talking about how things develop and that sort of things, you know, the general public out there, a lot of people think we don't really need that much technology. Why do we need to do that? Why do we need to spend money on that? And I have to admit, at one point I was in that majority. I was thinking, you know, the schools are spending a lot of money on technology. Is it really that important that we do that? And of course, when you hear different people's takes on it, it helps me to understand. I mean, for us not to use technology in our schools would be like, you know, when the ink pen came along and notebook paper and that sort of thing. What if we decided, you know, as teachers and parents, we're not going to let kids use that. We're going to make them use that slate chalkboard, and that's how they're going to do everything. Even though this was better, this was neater, this was easier, you know, they could write things down and look at it later. They didn't have to keep erasing it. I mean, they always had it there in front of them after you use a pen and paper. For us not to use technology now would be like going back to that slate board.